The Yankees are so good at training their coaches that other teams are poaching them, and we're going to discuss it next on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, happy Thursday.
What up, what up?
It's Thursday, and we're recording because we're not sticking to the 3-day-a-week thing. We figured, why not go back to 5 days a week? You guys like it. You're enjoying it. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We passed 8,200. Yay! Like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So as I said at the top, the Yankees are training their minor league coaches and some major league coaches so well that other teams are poaching them. We'll tell you about the large number of guys who have left the Yankees during this offseason. We're going to briefly touch upon Jasson Dominguez bulking up a bit, getting ready for spring training, and we're going to pay tribute to a baseball legend. But first, let's discuss the Yankees basically having a minor league system for their coaches.
Yeah, it's great for around the rest of Major League Baseball, right? That you tend to see this in other sports a lot more. It just gets it gets kind of like pushed under the rug when it comes to baseball, right? Because of the minor league system, you don't realize how many coaches are poached from other teams and stuff. And we discussed this last week, and I think it's notable from what you're going to read us, Stacey. Mm-hmm. The fact that the Yankees' last really big and major financial move they made for a coach was Matt Blake. Outside of organization, everybody else pretty much gets developed from in-house, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And they were talking about in the article, Gary Phillips from the Daily News wrote this article. It came out last week. And then, other things happened. We had to push this back because we were actually going to do this, I think, Tuesday, and then we pushed it back. It's interesting because really the impetus, is that the word for this article? Do you remember way back, December 2023, it's not that far back, when Brian Cashman had that scrum in front of the GM meetings and he got a little heated with certain people and they were saying how he was basically saying, we're pretty effing good. And everyone was thinking, what is he talking about? The Yankees didn't even make the playoffs. They had their worst record. He was talking about the organization. And this is basically what he meant. The fact that the Yankees train their coaches so well that from top to bottom, from the lowest level to the highest level, they have well-performing coaches. And that's why all these teams are starting to take them. They've lost 14 just this offseason, 14 from all the different levels and all different types. We're not going to go through every single one of them because it's too many to go through. But 3 have left the major league staff. Desi Druschel was the assistant pitching coach. And, the Yankees really coveted him, but the Mets snatched him right away in November. Analyst Aaron Leanhart joined the Marlins as a field coordinator, and bullpen catcher Colin Thoreau accepted a minor league position with the Marlins. So those were the 3 guys that left the majors, and the rest were all in the minor league system. All different types of positions, not just head coaches, but, hitting coaches, pitching coaches, all different types.
And coaching means a lot in all sports, and you see it mostly in football, right? Like how you think it's valuable that teams always wanted to poach a Bill Belichick guy off his tree or Bill Parcells off his tree. It's kind of very similar to this. Teams value how the Yankees run their organization because, Stacey, you're not only getting the guy as an expert coach coming over, right? You're also getting their organizational philosophy. You're getting how the Yankees do things. And if other teams view the Yankees as a model organization, someone that comes from within the Yankee organization is going to know how they do things. And if they see things are done a different way than the Yankees do, they're going to speak up and say, hey, don't do it this way. Don't do it this way. So it is valuable. And the proof is there with other teams trying to acquire these guys.
Yeah, they said things really started picking up during COVID, amazingly enough, in 2020. And basically the training that they do for some of the coaches who come in, they basically call it Yankees University, where they train these guys to get ready for coaching. I just think it's really amazing that the Yankees are so good at coaching people that other teams want them so badly that they're poaching them. And there was another thing in the article that said other teams previously wouldn't even bother because they would offer these Yankee guys stuff and the Yankees just had more money to pay for them. And that's why you're seeing more of these guys leaving now, because the Yankees have other people to pay. Thanks to this offseason, they're kind of allocating the money elsewhere. Kevin Reese, who is the vice president of player development, told the Daily News, "I'm kind of a selfish guy who would hope to retain our best coaches, but I'm excited about the opportunities that they've gotten."
Yeah, and that's what you're building their career. You can't fault those guys for leaving and going for whether it's more money or for a better opportunity. You can't really fault them for doing that at all. But I wonder. I don't actually know the answer to this, but I'd be very curious to know how many GMs in baseball come from Brian Cashman's tree. How many worked under Brian Cashman or really have started their careers through him. I know you've seen it a lot out of Tampa Bay of recent. A lot of guys that come out of that organization have been poached from other teams that have more money and stuff because they want to follow the analytical model, and they've kind of been the model franchise for analytics. So a lot of guys have wound up leaving that organization to go over to different teams. I know Houston hired a lot of their front office executives out of Tampa Bay. You see it a lot. I mean, this doesn't get published in the news because who really cares that much or knows that in depth, but a lot of the MIT guys that are really big on making analytics a big thing in baseball, a lot of them are poached from different teams. They make their way up with Tampa, and then someone else is offering a lot more money. So teams are they're putting their budget a lot towards that department also. I will say too, Tampa lost a lot of coaches and a lot of front office executives, specifically after Chaim Bloom left. Chaim Bloom went to the Red Sox, and he was the kingpin of all this. And a lot of his former guys that worked under him wound up leaving Tampa and getting a lot more money. So you see it around the league, not just with coaching. It happens in front offices too.
Yeah. And you don't hear about this stuff, but it's basically the same thing as being a player in a way. Cause it's almost like you hit free agency and you're like, okay, I can go somewhere else and another team can pick you up. Or as Kevin Reese said, it's a little like the Rule 5 draft. You can't necessarily protect and promote everyone. He said the biggest reason is these are good employees who have done great work and have earned the chance to take on more responsibility. And plus, there's a bit of a, like what you would call a glass ceiling, because, you get to a certain point and there are certain people not leaving the major league level. So where are these guys going to go? And if they have other opportunities, they're going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's the truth around all of sports is there's see it around the best example is football, and the only reason I use that is because we know the coordinators and the specialty coaches more often than not when it comes to football, and they're the ones that get promoted. But in baseball, you really don't know other than your own team, you really don't know much more than the manager. Sometimes you know who the hitting coach is or the bench coach, but other than that, you really don't know a lot of the in-depth of the organizations. But you see this in football all the time where a top-notch defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, you basically know they're not going to be on the team next year because how good their team does previously. So, and they're not going to elevate those guys to a head coaching position. So where is there to go? And you see it in baseball too. If you got an assistant GM that's thriving with an organization that is deserving of a job, does it really behoove him to stay and not get the GM job or to wait? I mean, what are you waiting for Brian Cashman's job to be available? It's not going to be, so you can't fault these guys for leaving for better opportunities because their goal is to advance as much as possible too. And if they serve as an assistant GM for a while, their obvious goal, Stacey, is to become a GM at some point. So you got to give these guys opportunities to go advance their career too.
Is Brian Cashman the longest running GM ever?
In sports?
Because it feels like it.
I don't know if he currently is in sports. I would think so. Nothing comes to the top of my mind.
I mean, he's been there in that position since 1998. I mean, that's a long time ago. Right now, I don't think there's anybody that's been doing it longer. We're coming on near 30 years. So here is a bit of an endorsement from someone who was a coach with the Yankees for 15 years. Carlos Mendoza, I was going to say head coach, like we're talking about football, Mets manager. He said, I lived it. I grew up in the organization. He was in the Yankee organization 15 years, he filled numerous roles, including bench coach. And he said the fact that a lot of coaches continued to be pulled away by many different teams says something about their player development program.
Yeah, no, it's true. And the Yankees have been the model for that for a while, too, with bringing up players and trying to build through their farm system. Now, it feels like lately the Dodgers have perfected it with having constant talent coming up, but the Yankees are the first ones really, and at the turn of the century, that really started to prioritize building up the minor league system.
I know we're 25 years into the new century, but it still feels like when you say turn of the century, I'm still thinking 1900. So that just
no. But think about it though. There are teams in the major leagues that have turned near dynasties and multiple championships out of building up their farm system, where the philosophy in the early 2000s in baseball was just spend out of your problem, just spend as much money as you can and fix the problem.
Right
now, I mean, the Houston Astros,
and it didn't work for everyone too.
No, I'd say most it didn't work for. The Houston Astros are really the model of a team that lost for a while, built their farm system up and built it into a perennial winner. I guess you could say the Cubs did it. Right, with Rizzo and Bryant, they drafted all those guys and built them up. The Orioles have currently done it, and the Yankees, to an extent, did it. A lot of their homegrown talent too. The beauty of what you want to try and do is really what the Dodgers do: have the pocketbook to spend for the superstars, but also bring up your own talent at the same time. Not a lot of teams perfect that at all. Stacey, I did want to mention too. I did just search. Brian Cashman is currently the longest running GM in all of sports. The longest ever was Jack Adams for the Detroit Red Wings, went from 1927 to 1962.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So, I guess that's why that is why the Coach of the Year award is called the Jack Adams Trophy. So that would make sense. Yeah. Brian Cashman could get to that level though. I mean, he's in his 50s?
Yeah.
So he could easily be the GM for another, who knows? 20 years.
Yeah. There are no term limits, so he could be doing this till he's in his 80s. Who knows? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get texts from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We send out lineups during the season, roster moves, any kind of minor league players coming up. We let you know, breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. Coming up next, Jasson Dominguez has put on some bulk. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Guys, you know me, I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a Shinedown concert last year. The energy and the excitement at the event, it was unforgettable. But on my way to the event, we were all excited, and someone in the group said, "Hey, anyone get tickets yet?" And we realized no one had bought tickets yet. So I went right over to the Gametime app. I was able to get tickets almost immediately. I was looking for tickets for the concert, and with Gametime picks, I found amazing deals. I could see this view from my seats before I was even buying. Check everyone in the group. Hey, you like these seats? Great. The super deal was particularly impressive. It offered great seats, unbeatable prices. Plus, there was the app's all-in pricing feature that showed the total cost up front. No surprise fees at checkout. None of the annoying stuff that everywhere else gives you. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath the pinned comment in our videos during the week, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. That'll get you top priority during Fan Mail Friday. That link's in our description.
Oops, hold on. I just wanted you to be on the side that you're comfortable with.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Your consideration is greatly appreciated. Stacey, this Jasson Dominguez story is fascinating that he's, hitting the chicken breast and protein shakes apparently during the offseason. Who needed a big guy to get bigger? I mean, what is his height and weight coming in? Because he's already a physical freak.
Right. Like he's already bulky. He's not very tall, but he's already bulky. And there was a picture on I believe it was on Twitter, but someone put it into our group Slack, so I didn't have to go to Twitter, and I saw the picture, and yeah, he's bulked up a bit, but like you said, does he really need it?
No, I'm trying to find his his logs of what he comes in at every
Yeah,
year. I'll find it for you before the segment ends, but
yeah,
he's already a big dude. Just
yeah.
a reminder
Like
before we
he's
get into the rest of the segment, in the minor leagues last year, he hit 314 and 11 homers and 35 RBIs and only 226 at bats, and that came along with an 880 OPS.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the Yankees did nothing with him. I know some people are, like one of my friends even joked in our Slack when they saw the picture of him. They're like, yeah, I'd rather him work out in left field than put on. I'm like, I'm sure he's working on the defensive stuff. I think he understands what he needs to do to stay with the Yankees and not have to go back to Scranton. So I'm pretty sure that Jasson Dominguez understands that he's going to have to learn how to play left field. And, they may put him out in center when they need him out there, but I'm pretty sure that he knows what he needs to do this offseason. I'm sure he's already working on it. And if he hasn't worked on it too much, they will do that in spring training.
And their plan last year, Stacey, I don't think was to keep him in the minor leagues all year. It started out with the injury that wound up having him and then he never was able to really get off the mat, I guess, if you want to say, right? Because he came back, he got injured just after that again, missed like another 2 months. And then we've talked about it a lot with pitchers, and I feel like pitchers get the benefit of the doubt more often than not because they don't get a full spring training, and we kind of toss it up to, you don't get his full spring training, and it takes a while to get in your groove. But we don't give hitters the credit too, and it's a big problem for hitters too. Baseball players are creatures of habit, and when they're not able to get in their spring training routine and go through the season like they normally do, it winds up creeping up on them, and especially when they have to start their season in June or July. It's just not the same for them. A lot of players say that they never are able to get, their season going or feel like their season never gets started when they come in mid-year. So I think I'm going to credit that's what happened with Dominguez too, because Stacey, we can't forget what the end of 2023 was like for him, where he was hitting the cover off the ball from, September on.
With a torn UCL that he got in that first series against Houston.
I think he had like 8 home runs in like 20 games. It was unbelievable.
It felt like Gary Sanchez when Gary Sanchez first came up in 16.
It had very, very close remnants to that. It really did. Yeah. Dominguez last year coming in at 2024 when he came in, weighing at 5'9", 210 pounds.
Damn.
Yeah,
he's a
big boy. Yeah, but he's not chunky or fat or anything like
that.
No,
he's just solid. Yeah.
He's got like Frank Gore size to him, like big running back, meaty guy. You want to give him the ball to go into the hole. So he's the kind of guy. I guess the expectation is gonna be left field, right? And then maybe transition him towards center field at some point in his career. We'll see. I know the other highlights too is there was a motivation for center field, Stacey, and I'm curious of what you think about this too, because he is very fast. He can really run, and he has an absolute gun for an arm. And I wonder how they feel about, keeping an arm like that in left field. Not a lot of opportunities to throw guys out from left field, certainly not as many from center field.
Yeah.
It's not like Bellinger has a poor arm, but it's not as good as Dominguez. You're still going to keep Bellinger there in center field though, right?
I think so. But I guess we'll find out in spring training and, in the beginning of the season, what they actually end up doing. I just want him to be given a chance. I want him to be able to get things going and not have so many stops and starts. Because as you said, these guys are creatures of habit, especially hitters. You can't keep starting and stopping. Like, Aaron Judge is a freak of nature. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that, because when he hurt himself, when was that? In 23, he hurt himself. And when he came back, he ended up, what year was that when he hurt his toe?
It was 2023.
Right. And he came back, he started hitting home runs again.
Mm-hmm.
It was, if he didn't have those many weeks off, he would have had another season similar to 22 and similar to 24. He would have been up at like 55 home runs again.
He was on pace for 60 again that year. He was on pace for 60. And what's crazy too about Judge's numbers too, I want to say it's 2021. I could be wrong on that one though. The year where he breaks his wrist in July, when he gets hit by the pitch and misses a bunch of time, Stacey, he was on pace that year. He finished that year with like 38 home runs. And, he was on pace again for another ridiculous year. It's he did miss some more time earlier on in his career with injuries, and you wonder if he doesn't miss that time, what do his numbers wind up finishing up with? But you got to remember too, it's tough for Dominguez because Judge didn't come up with those expectations. Now, he was a first round pick, and there were expectations for him. But when they called Judge up, I remember it was 2016, right? It was with Tyler Austin, that same branch of guys. When they called Judge up, Tyler Austin was the more promising prospect, and you saw how that one worked out. But B, Aaron Judge came up, and there were not these grandiose expectations of him to just become a superstar who is a crazy good all-time hitter. And he winds up becoming that, and that's all good and well. But Dominguez, before he had played in his first major league game, he literally had those expectations of he's going to be an all-time great. His nickname is the Martian before he got to the U.S.
Oh, yeah, they were talking about him when he was like 16 years old, that he was going to be this phenom.
So imagine that kind of pressure under you. Aaron Judge didn't have that, and you didn't expect that out of him, and then he became this all-time superstar, which is great. But Dominguez had these expectations before he even picked up, a bat in the United States. So you have to remember that too. It's not necessarily, different guys come up with different paths, and Dominguez, from all accounts, flew through the minor league system also. I mean, I do remember a few years ago when he was in high A ball, right? And now he flew through the minor leagues. So you got to give it time too. If he comes up in April and gets up to a slow start, because I know we're going to have shows like this.
Oh yeah.
I know he's going to strike out in a big spot sometime in April, and we're going to do a live show, and there's going to be people in our chat. Get rid of this guy. Kid can't hit, obviously. Yada yada. You got to give it time. Not everybody's Aaron Judge. You guys remember 2017 or 2016, Aaron Judge struck out on like 68% of his at-bats for that month. It takes time. Not everyone's perfect when they come up. So I want to caution everybody before we start complaining when Dominguez doesn't have 10 home runs in the month of April.
Yes, and we also have to do the flip side because of the way he came up when he came up. And I mean, right away, literally off Justin Verlander. I mean, could you have scripted a better thing? So also don't heap that expectation upon him either. Just let's hope for something in the middle where he contributes.
He's 21 years old, Steve.
He's so young.
Like, he just became able to drink in New York. Like, give it time. Like, these guys, Aaron Judge, what was he? Was he 25 when he got called up? These guys, it takes a while for these guys to be able to, become who they are and mold into their own game and stuff. You can't expect it immediately. Also, it does say on here, I did want to mention, Dominguez is legitimately built like an average NFL linebacker. So crazy to think about.
Yeah. All right. We got some sad news today. Coming up next, we're going to honor Bob Uecker. I was really bummed about this. I actually yelled out, "No," when I saw the news. I mean, he was 90, so it's not a shocking thing. It's just, the passage of time is just awful, and we're losing all of these players from like certain eras. There's no one left, and it's so sad. And it's not just baseball for Bob Uecker. I mean, he's been present in my life as a non-baseball player my entire life. I remember him from the light beer commercials. Like, that was my first. Those were my first memories of Bob Uecker when I was a kid, and Mr. Belvedere and Major League. I mean, who doesn't quote Major League? I'm constantly quoting it. I quote it during games. Like, if a pitcher misfires, I'm actually yelling at the TV just a bit outside. Who doesn't?
I went out to Milwaukee a few years ago and did the whole stadium tour and saw the whole stadium and stuff. And it cannot be understated how beloved he is out there. I mean, he's one of the only guys that can never. I think he's the only guy that I know that has a statue in the seats in the stadium. There's a statue of Bob Uecker, and I don't think it's called Miller Park anymore. And I can't remember the name of where I can't
remember the name either.
Home stadium now, but it's always going to be Miller Park to me. But the last seat behind home plate, because he always said that's the best seat in the house, the last seat behind home plate is a statue of Bob Uecker in a seat out there, which is so cool. He's so beloved out there, and deservedly so. Was still calling games up until last year. I know he took some time off of his schedule, but he was still calling games. A legendary voice. One guy that was really bummed out about it was Christian Yelich, who had an unbelievable relationship with Uecker. And What's great about Bob Uecker is and you don't see this a lot in sports. I mean, we would have asked Michael Kay this question, but Uecker wound up passing a few days after the interview. But Bob Uecker is one of the only guys in professional sports that's able to move past the announcer just having to be professional and not being a fan of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And you specifically see it in New York sports because there is a frowned upon attitude of play-by-play guys in New York being openly fans of the team. And, Michael Kay does get a little more excited when the Yankees do something. And John Sterling certainly gets more excited when the Yankees do something. But they're not openly Yankee fans. They call the game pretty straightforward. And most New York announcers are the ones that do that. They call it pretty straightforward. And most announcers in sports you do notice it more when you listen to games out of market. But generally, most announcers in sports are pretty straightforward. And Bob Uecker is the one that was able to both transcend going past just being a straight ahead broadcaster, but also no one minded it. No one found him annoying and over the top rooting for the Brewers.
Unlike Hawk Harrelson for the White Sox.
Because you do see it with other teams where they are openly fans of the team, but it's obnoxious and it's over the top.
It's really, if you guys and gals who are watching this, listening to this, haven't listened to other booths around baseball, you really need to sometime, because I was shocked at how openly rooting against the opposing team some of these booths do, and rooting for. You hear them rooting for the home runs to get over the fence kind of thing. And it's just like, whoa, that is really jarring. Because as you said, of course, Kay gets more excited if the Yankees are going to hit a walk-off home run. But he still calls the game pretty even. But these guys, it's like, it would be like me being in a booth calling the Yankees and I would be excited.
There is a fine line because, I mean, Kay, I think he's one of the best out there, but he's aware of the moment. Right. He's aware of if they're playing in Toronto and Vlad Jr. hits a home run that clinches them a playoff berth, he's going to get excited for that. How could you not as a sports fan?
Right.
So there is a line they have to play. And Michael Kay is aware that he's calling the Yankee game. And, 98% of the people watching on the S Network are Yankee fans. So there is that animation to it. I don't think anyone's arguing against that. The problem is, and this is not just a baseball problem, Stacey. If you listen to other sports out of market too, I mean, it's a big problem all over. But I don't have a problem with being a fan of the team. I have a problem with not being able to call the game like it's an actual sporting event. These guys call games again, like you're saying, get out, that kind of stuff. Get over the wall.
They sound like me yelling at my TV.
Yeah, blatantly stuff against the other team where it's not a straightforward broadcast. And Bob Uecker is one of the only guys that was able to openly be a Brewers fan, but also have the respect of the outside fan where it still sounded like a professional broadcast, right? Just an unbelievable broadcaster. So beloved out in Milwaukee. And, I loved how around the team he was, right? I loved how he was up until, I think, 2 years ago when the Brewers clinched the NL Central. He was in the clubhouse with them drinking at 88 years old. That is so awesome. If there's a way to go, that's the way to do it, where you're still around the sport 24/7. You're at the stadium, at the ballpark, all that. And, your time just came. That's the better way to go.
So Uecker was the Brewers radio announcer from 1971. He was still doing games up until last year. He got the Ford C. Frick Award in 2003. He got into the Baseball Hall of Fame for that. Has a legendary speech. Look it up on YouTube and watch it. And as I said, he was better known for his post-baseball career, the Miller Lite commercials in the 70s and 80s, his part as Harry Doyle in Major League, and Mr. Belvedere from the 80s. So, it's just, I was sad. And I saw something very interesting. Someone said that, Uecker played with Hank Aaron, and he also called Jackson Churio hitting a home run, and he's like 20. And it's like the range of the time that he's been involved with baseball. And speaking of Uecker and when he played baseball, I don't think I've ever seen this picture. But when he was on the Cardinals, they did their team picture. It doesn't say what year it was. But when they did their team picture, him and Bob Gibson decided to play a prank. And this is what they did in the picture. Now you see where they're circled. They're smiling very big and they're holding hands. No one noticed this until they printed the picture out for like the yearbook and whatever else it was going to be used for. And Uecker said on the Tonight Show in 1971, when he was talking to Johnny Carson, that they were both fined a couple $100. They were not happy with that at all.
That's so ridiculous, but hysterical that picture still, is like that to this day. It's so terrific.
Yeah. And the best light commercial that he did is the one where he's in the stadium and he's like, yeah, you call up the front office and they get you these tickets. And, the guy's like, no, this isn't your seat, and he's like, oh, I must be in the front row. And then they take him and he's in the nosebleeds. And that's basically why they did that commercial, because of what he said about the nosebleeds. But my dad, every time that commercial came on, he laughed. He loved that line. Oh, I must be in the front row. So my dad would say that when we would go to Yankee Stadium every once in a while because of that commercial. So yeah, a lot of memories of Bob Uecker. It's a sad day in baseball.
It's different for guys like that out in because even you saw John Sterling didn't necessarily get the same treatment. Now, Yankee fans definitely love him, but he didn't get the same treatment that Bob Uecker routinely got out in Milwaukee. There was no one that had a bad word to say about him. He was so unbelievably beloved out there, and you see it a lot more in middle America and stuff like that, where especially these, as baseball has kind of transitioned away from being much more of a regional sport than a national sport, and people fall in love with their team in their area. Local guys like that, fan bases fall in love with guys like that. So a guy that's really, synonymous with the Milwaukee Brewers, is he the most famous Brewer of all time besides Hank Aaron? It just feels that, or Milwaukee athlete, I guess. It just feels that way. I calling him a Brewer. I know I don't think he played for them, but definitely not the Brewers he didn't play for, but just the fact that he's so synonymous with that organization. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that is more synonymous with the Milwaukee Brewers than Bob Uecker.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to transcend it off the field like that. It's wild.
Yeah. And the fact that he was able to go into acting and be really good at it. He was really good as Harry Doyle. He was good in both movies. I mean, the second Major League wasn't as good as the first one, but he had some really funny lines in the second one.
Legend.
Reminder for everyone. So Fan Mail Fridays tomorrow. If you could on YouTube, got a couple of questions, but I put a pinned comment under our Michael K interview. So look for the Michael K interview. Watch it if you haven't yet. And if you have a question for Fan Mail Friday, leave it under the pinned comment on Wednesday's episode. Insiders, great job. Lots of questions from you guys, but I would like more questions from the YouTube audience. So if you could do us a solid, and because it's the off season, you can ask us anything. We'll see how that goes.
Yes.
So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And again, tomorrow is Fan Mail Friday, so we're looking forward to that. We always love Fan Mail Friday, right?
Of course, yeah. I have a great time doing it. Yeah. I'm excited for your Ask Us Anything edition. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, don't disappoint us. Ask us anything. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gatsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you tomorrow.